Bringing together nearly 400 million citizens, ECOWAS has spent more than 50 years strengthening regional integration, economic cooperation and development among its member states. In this new edition of ECOWAS Report, the first 360-degree magazine, TV, digital and print dedicated to news and current affairs across West Africa, will bring you a special feature on regional integration in the face of economic and trade realities. The program includes a closer look at the decline in airfare across the ECOWAS region, a profile of Kwaku Alexis Kouassi, a key figure in water governance in West Africa, a business spotlight on Phil Tisak, the regional leader in packaging solutions, an exclusive interview with Czech Tidiane Gadio on new prospects for African cooperation, and a focus on Cabo Verde, a leading tourism destination within ECOWAS. Welcome to ECOWAS Report. Despite record cereal production, West Africa continues to face food insecurity, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Inefficiencies in intra-regional trade cost the region nearly $10 billion each year, yet regional trade remains largely underexploited. Reducing the cost of exchanges is therefore crucial to strengthening economic sovereignty and accelerating regional development.
Despite decades of efforts, particularly by the Economic Community of West African States ECOWAS, regional integration in West Africa remains hindered by persistent structural constraints. These obstacles notably include political instability, insecurity, and ongoing trade barriers, which have collectively prevented the formation of a true common market. To address these limitations and accelerate development, ECOWAS is stepping up its community's engagements. On April 27, 2026 in Abidjan, the organization launched a series of focused meetings. The primary goal is to accelerate integration by better harmonizing national legislative frameworks across key sectors like investment, food trade, and migration policies.
The essence of this meeting basically is every year we do have several experts meeting at that level to look into issues relating to the migration dynamics within the region. Obviously, we've had several meetings regarding border management, labor mobility, migration, environment, and climate change. But then once that is done, we always have to take it a step further to get senior officials who manage these experts, and these are the heads of immigration, obviously, to look at the recommendations that have emanated.
Despite achieving a record cereal harvest of 80 million tons in 2025, West Africa still contends with enduring food insecurity, even though the region possesses significant agricultural potential. Intra-regional food trade in West Africa is already substantial, valued at nearly $10 billion annually, with flows sufficient to feed tens of millions of people, according to the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. Consequently, in the face of these challenges, lowering the cost associated with the regional trade is increasingly viewed as a vital step towards economic sovereignty.
We need to ensure that interventions that are designed can address these categories of people. And one of the key interventions is to have simplified trading regimes that will allow simplified and cheaper and faster processes for small businesses who do not have the capacity to deal with a lot of the bureaucracy that may occur at the borders.
This is a strategic issue at a time when Africa is also relying on the African Continental Free Trade Area to accelerate trade among countries across the continent. Despite political and security tensions, countries such as Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana continue to reaffirm their commitment to regional integration, presented as a collective responsibility in the service of populations. The objective is to facilitate trade corridors, modernize transport infrastructure, harmonize custom regulations, and accelerate the digitalization of trade.
I would say this is about a high-level political endorsement of the work that was done by the technical team on migration data, on border management, on coordination, and we have seen that happening today. And this is going to help West Africa as a region to move forward from just policy to actually practice, to ensure that what they agreed upon is indeed implemented.
According to the OECD's Sahel and West Africa Club, nearly $10 billion linked to trade in West Africa reportedly escaped official statistics.
Since January 2026, airfares within the ECOWAS region have fallen by as much as 40% thanks to reductions in taxis and airport charges. This reform aims to facilitate mobility, boost tourism and strengthen commercial exchanges. Air traffic is expected to increase by 20 to 30%, making air transport a major driver of regional integration.
Since January 2026, air ticket prices have recorded a significant decline up to 40% across the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS region. The measure requires all member states to eliminate tax not directly linked to air transport and to implement a 25% reduction in passenger and security charges.
Our community will implement a landmark measure to reduce the cost of air travel across West Africa.
West Africa was once among the most expensive global regions for air travel, with taxes and charges previously constituting up to 50% of the final ticket price. This high cost contrasts with North Africa, which captures nearly 40% of continental air traffic, highlighting the disparity in air travel affordability and activity between the two regions.
Under this agreement, member states will abolish air transport taxes and reduce passenger and security charges.
The reform is also part of the broader momentum of the Single African Air Transport Market, cette, supported by the African Union to strengthen connectivity between countries across the continent. By facilitating the mobility of travelers and economic operators, ECOWAS hopes to further stimulate regional tourism, investment, and intra-African trade. West African airlines will therefore become more competitive against the continent's major hubs.
This is a bold affirmation of our collective resolve to ease the movement of our people, deepen regional trade, stimulate tourism, and strengthen the social and economic ties that define our community.
The reform is expected to generate positive effects by stimulating regional demand, with air traffic projected to increase between 20 to 30%, while gradually correcting a major imbalance in which taxation sometimes accounted for up to half of the ticket prices. The West African airspace is therefore increasingly positioning itself as a genuine driver of growth and regional integration rather than an obstacle to development.
Since 2024, engineer Alexis Kouassi from Côte d'Ivoire has been leading the ECOWAS Center for Water Resources Management. In this role, he is implementing an ambitious regional strategy aimed at making water a catalyst for stability, cooperation, and sustainable development across West Africa.
Since early 2024, the head of the ECOWAS Water Resources Management Center, Ivorian engineer Alexis Kouassi has emerged as a key figure in environmental diplomacy crucial to regional stability. A graduate of the National Polytechnic Institute Félix Houphouët-Boigny in Yamoussoukro, he is tasked with the enormous responsibility of coordinating the governance of 25 transboundary river basins shared across the 15 ECOWAS member states. For this modern manager, water is no longer merely a sanitation issue, but an invisible driver of economic development and regional peace.
Today, the issue of integrated water resources management is more than fundamental. This management indeed makes it possible to create the link between water and many other sectors, notably the energy sector and naturally the food sector as well.
To turn this ambition into reality, the Ivorian expert is pursuing an assertive and proactive diplomatic approach. Under his leadership, the CGRE has strengthened its influence through several high-level strategic partnerships, from technical cooperation with the West African Power Pool to secure and harness the region's hydroelectric potential, to the signing in February 2026 of a major cross-border agreement with the African Water and Sanitation Association. This partnership also responds to a critical continental emergency, mobilizing parts of the estimated $400 billion in annual investments needed to deliver concrete solutions for the 400 million Africans still lacking access to safe drinking water.
The participation of the
ECOWAS Water Resource Management Center is intended to connect the center with stakeholders in the sustainable energy sector and to make available to these actors the West African Regional Water Resource Policy, which calls on them as stakeholders to significantly increase investment to these sectors, particularly by building water resource infrastructure.
En bâtissant des infrastructures de ressources en eau.
According to Ivorian engineer Alexis Kouassi, the challenge by 2030 is enormous. To reverse the current trend, as more than 155 million people in the sub-region still suffer from chronic lack of access to safe drinking water, resulting in direct economic losses estimated at between 2% and 5% of the annual GDP of several member states.
In terms of water resources, the major challenges that must be addressed very quickly include, first of all, having a good understanding of the resource, meaning water resources at the regional level, particularly surface water and groundwater resources. We are working with development partners and technical financial partners to gain sufficient knowledge of all water resources in West Africa.
According to reports from the WHO and UNICEF joint monitoring program, only about 31% of the population in sub-Saharan Africa has access to safely managed drinking water services, while 14% of people spend more than 30 minutes a day collecting water.
A key player in the cocoa, coffee and cashew sectors, Filtisag remains competitive despite growing market competition. The company continues to play a central role in regional agricultural exports, recording 33.5 billion CFA francs in revenue in 2024.
Filtisag, a key player in the packaging industry across Francophone West Africa, was founded in Abidjan in 1965 to support the growth of Ivorian exports. The company is part of the IPS ACFED Group, which is based in Nairobi, Kenya, and is affiliated with the Aga Khan Development Network. This group has a significant presence, operating in over a dozen countries across West, East, and Central Africa. Listed on the BRVM, Filtisag employs approximately 4,400 people and holds a strategic position in the cocoa, coffee, and cashew nut sectors. Filtisag, in order to survive and remain operational, had to adapt to changing times, adapt to technological development while respecting environmental requirements. We are therefore looking at a company that has embedded itself within the sector, within agricultural value chains and export clusters, in order to remain an important and indispensable link in export productivity. Thanks to its capacity for renewal, Filtisag has been able to build a stock market value and strengthen its competitiveness on the markets, and it is this value that has enabled the company to stand the test of time. Over the decades, Filtisag has significantly diversified its activities. The company no longer limits itself to natural fiber bags intended for cocoa and coffee, but also manufactures polypropylene packaging, big bags, as well as plastic containers such as preform and PET bottles. This move up market has been accompanied by the gradual industrialization of its production lines, making it an integrated player in the packaging value chain. But when the company stands the test of time, it is not necessarily obliged to maintain high production levels, simply because there is strong competition from imported packaging and sacks coming from China and other Asian countries. This competition systematically reduces profit margins because production costs are subsidized by other packaging exporting countries. From an economic standpoint, Filtisag remains a major player on the regional financial market. In 2024, the company recorded an estimated turnover of 33.5 billion CFA francs with a net profit of 18.8 billion CFA francs, reflecting a strong performance despite a decline in turnover compared with the previous year. During the first 6 months of 2025, the company achieved a turnover of 13.4 billion CFA francs. Its stock market capitalization stands at around 30 to 31 billion CFA francs, confirming its weight on the BRVM. Filtisag is becoming an indispensable link in the productivity of all agro-industrial sectors and production chains because the company has maintained its key and irreplaceable role in exports. Without packaging, exports are impossible, and exports cannot take place without packaging. We are therefore in a context where packaging has become almost an indispensable link in the production chain and an essential component of exports. Hence, the need to reduce packaging costs in order to remain competitive in terms of final and overall costs. Present in several West and Central African countries through its subsidiaries, 50SAC plays a central role in regional industrialization. The company also relies on international quality standards and strong integration into agricultural supply chain. Driven by strong demographic growth and accelerating industrialization across Africa, 50SAC is consolidating its position as a leading force in the packaging sector at the heart of the sub-region's agricultural, industrial, and financial dynamics.
Cheikh Tidiane Gadio, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Senegal and President of the Institute for Pan-African Strategies, shares his vision for the future of African regional cooperation. He discusses the critical challenges of security, stability, and economic integration, while highlighting the essential role of African diplomacy and international partnerships in accelerating development, industrialization, and technology transfer across the continent.
How will you assess the current state of regional cooperation between African states, particularly in the areas of security, stability, and economic integration?
Régional, la question de l'intégration et tout ça, aujourd'hui, c'est le plus grand défi de l'Afrique. Je pense que le paradigme de l'intégration africaine, tel que compris par nos dirigeants, nous a mené à l'impasse. Après 50 ans d'intégration africaine, par exemple dans le cadre de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, depuis la création de la CEDEAO en 1975, nous ne sommes pas plus avancés véritablement que ce qu'on devrait être en termes d'intégration, comme en Asie, quand ça a réussi, ils sont allés à 56% d'échanges interasiatiques. L'Union européenne, 76% d'échanges inter-européens. Nous, en Afrique, on parle de 16%, de 18%, etc. Ce résultat n'est pas bon. Quand je vois, moi, des leaders africains chanter les louanges et les réussites de l'intégration africaine, je dis franchement, il y a des gens qui se contentent de peu et qui n'ont pas une grande vision, une grande ambition pour l'Afrique. Si on pense que l'Afrique a un grand destin, on devrait dépasser des histoires de 16%, de 20%. 50% de nos échanges devraient être interafricains et ensuite on continue. Ce n'est pas le cas. Et là où la CEDEAO avait fait quelques progrès, vous avez vu ce qui est arrivé avec la fracture qu'il y a et la sortie de certains États. Et la CEDEAO qui est aujourd'hui agitée par des coups d'État militaires qui reviennent dans notre région. C'est-à-dire quand nos dirigeants ne peuvent pas faire face à des problèmes, au lieu de s'ouvrir aux compétences nationales de leur pays, de travailler avec l'expertise, de valoriser les femmes, de valoriser les jeunes, au lieu de faire tout cela, ils restent dans une crise, s'enferment dans une crise. Et les militaires, qui sont supposés avoir le plus grand honneur dans chaque pays, celui de défendre son pays et son territoire. Au lieu de s'occuper de ces questions, les militaires passent à la politique et prennent le pouvoir. Et quand ils prennent le pouvoir, ils se rendent compte que le pouvoir n'est pas simple et qu'ils n'ont pas les compétences en matière de sciences politiques ou de constitutionnalisme, de gestion des institutions et tout ça. Et les militaires approfondissent la crise au lieu de la résoudre. Et donc, aujourd'hui, on a des fléaux. L'intégration africaine est en train d'être remplacée malheureusement par la désintégration africaine. Il faut arrêter cela.
How can African countries mobilize their diplomatic network and international partnerships to accelerate the continent's economic transformation?
En vérité, ce que les Africains doivent faire d'abord, dans le débat Sud-Sud, dans le débat Global South, dans le débat pour redessiner la carte géopolitique, géostratégique du monde, c'est qu'il faut que les Africains existent d'abord en tant qu'Africains. Quand nous sommes des wagons tirés par des locomotives venant d'Amérique, de l'Europe, de l'Asie, etc., nous n'existons pas. Il faut que les Africains se constituent comme une entité distincte, connue et reconnue. Nous avons 1,3 milliard d'habitants. On ne peut pas les cacher. 1,3 milliard d'habitants. C'est une force, un potentiel immense. Et surtout, composé essentiellement de jeunes. Peut-être que l'Afrique frôle le milliard de jeunes. Qu'est-ce qu'on fait de ces jeunes? Mais on a tout ce qu'il faut. 40% des ressources naturelles du monde. 1 milliard de jeunes, 60% des terres arables dans le monde. On a toutes les conditions réunies, sauf le leadership. L'Afrique doit régler la question du leadership. Leadership à tous les niveaux, y compris côté État, côté dans les villes, les quartiers, côté municipal, partout. La question du leadership. Et si on a des leaders qui nous tirent vers le haut et des leaders qui se respectent suffisamment pour ne pas prétendre que le Sénégal peut s'asseoir en face de la Chine comme partenaire d'égal à égal, ce n'est pas sérieux. Le Sénégal ne peut pas. Le Cameroun ne peut pas être face à la Chine comme partenaire d'égal à égal. Par contre, imaginez l'Afrique avec un seul ministre des Affaires étrangères, porte-parole de l'Afrique, porte-voix de l'Afrique. N'importe quelle capitale du monde, France, États-Unis, Chine, partout, ce sont leurs collègues qui vont leur ouvrir la porte. Pourquoi? Parce qu'ils vont les respecter. Parce qu'ils portent sur leur dos 1,3 milliard d'Africains, ils portent leur voix, ils portent leur poids. Et c'est ça qu'il nous faut. Global South, Sud-Sud, tout ça là, si on ne règle pas la question fondamentale de l'identité africaine, de l'entité africaine, de l'unité africaine, de l'intégration africaine, et le fait que l'Afrique ait choisisse de parler d'une seule voix, de mutualiser ses forces au plan sécuritaire pour se défendre ensemble, avoir une diplomatie commune, avoir un commerce extérieur commun, vendre les produits africains les mêmes produits, les mêmes prix. Même pétrole, gaz, on les vend au même prix. Il ne faut pas que le Cameroun dise « mon pétrole coûte tant, le Sénégal propose la moitié ». C'est ce que le président Abdoulaye Wade appelait la compétition ruineuse entre nous. C'est-à-dire ne pas avoir conscience qu'il n'y a rien de plus important pour un Africain qu'un autre Africain. C'est ça.
How can African countries better stimulate economic growth, encourage investment and accelerate technology transfer?
Vous savez, le développement dans tous les pays du monde commence par régler la question de l'agriculture. C'est une question de dignité et de souveraineté que de nourrir sa population. Mais les dirigeants africains et les pays africains, depuis l'indépendance, ne se gênent pas à aller acheter leur nourriture à l'extérieur. Qu'au début, ils n'aient pas tout ce qu'il faut et qu'ils achètent des compléments, etc., on peut comprendre. Mais pendant 60 ans d'indépendance, 65 ans, 50 ans, on continue d'acheter tout à l'extérieur, c'est inacceptable. Dieu a fait que l'Afrique a les meilleures terres arabes du monde pour les cultures. Nous avons une main-d'œuvre agricole extraordinaire. L'Afrique pouvait non seulement atteindre l'autosuffisance alimentaire, mais l'Afrique pouvait nourrir le reste du monde. Or, nous prenons le peu que nous gagnons en devises et autres pour aller acheter à manger à l'extérieur. Donc le développement commence par l'agriculture. Il faut nourrir sa population. Une population bien nourrie, on peut ensuite l'éduquer, l'éducation. Et après, on peut soigner cette population. Donc pour moi, c'est ça le triptyque, nourrir, éduquer, soigner et construire les infrastructures de base. Et ensuite, bien entendu, pour que l'agriculture maintenant connaisse son niveau de modernisation et de son, qu'on appelle en anglais full potential, il faut l'industrialisation. Et l'industrialisation de l'Afrique, ça tarde et ça fait... Alors, il y a des gens, il y a des débats comme ça où des gens disent, oui, on a trop de problèmes parce qu'on n'a pas industrialisé. Mais il faut un surplus agricole. Il faut des richesses créées pour pouvoir industrialiser l'Afrique. Les autres ne vont pas venir industrialiser. Combien de gens ont construit de grandes sociétés multinationales en Afrique? C'est leur usine. Quand ils sont fâchés, ils enlèvent les bis, les trucs, ils packent tout, ils s'en vont. Ce n'est pas notre industrialisation. Donc il faut commencer par le commencement. Nourrir, éduquer, soigner, bâtir les infrastructures, routes, autoroutes, ponts, chemins de fer, et ensuite, bien entendu, commencer le processus d'industrialisation et ne pas rater l'envol du numérique, de l'intelligence artificielle. Parce que ça aussi, on est des champions.
The 6th edition of the Zog Ben International Festival will be held in Dangbo, Benin from July 23 to 26, 2026 under the theme Heritage in Motion, launched in 2021. This major cultural event is dedicated to promoting Benin's intangible cultural heritage and fostering dialogue with the diaspora. Over 4 days, the festival will offer an immersive experience, blending ancestral traditions with innovation, bringing together artists, local communities, and audiences from several countries, confirming its international scope. From July 30th to August 1, 2026, the Tourism and Leisure Festival, Festoursi, will take place in Aboisso, Côte d'Ivoire. This major event positions itself as a showcase of Ivorian tourism, culture and leisure. The 2026 edition will feature a large leisure and discovery area with a diverse and attractive program. On the agenda, exhibitions, cultural performances, recreational activities, and interactive spaces, highlighting the country's tourism assets as well as sector innovations. The festival will also provide a privileged platform for exchanges between professionals, tourism stakeholders, content creators, and visitors. Nigeria will host the Africa Coatings Expo Western Africa Edition from 15 to 17 September 2026 in Lagos. Over 3 days, this major professional event will bring together more than 5,000 visitors, over 75 exhibitors, and participants from more than 80 countries. Integrated into the African Chemicals Expo, AfriChem, the Great Fair will showcase innovations, sustainability challenges, and investment opportunities in the paints, inks, and coating sector in West Africa. Through exhibitions, technical conferences, and B2B meetings, it represents a strategic platform for manufacturers, distributors, and investors seeking to position themselves in the fast-growing market.
With a population of fewer than 600,000 people, Cabo Verde has established itself as one of the leading tourist destinations within ECOWAS, attracting more than 400,000 visitors every quarter. This success is largely driven by the appeal of its beautiful beaches, particularly those on the island of Sar, as well as its spectacular volcanic landscapes.
With a surface area of 4,033 square kilometers and a population fewer than 600,000 people, Cabo Verde is a volcanic archipelago that has, in just a few years, become one of the most attractive tourism hubs in West Africa. According to the latest figures, the country recorded more than 400,000 tourist arrivals in the last quarters of 2025, a historic record for this island nation and ECOWAS member state. In Sal and Boa Vista, hotel resorts continue to open one after another along the Atlantic coastline. For this founding member of the regional organization, tourism accounts for nearly a quarter of the national GDP and remains the country's main economic driver.
I think that Cape Verde is a symbol, a success story, actually. Our investment in Capaulica has done extremely well. We're excited that Cape Verde is at the forefront of renewable energy in that regard. We've also invested in the Cape Verde Technology Park, which we're excited to see come to life, and we believe that it'll make Cape Verde a destination for the digital economy.
Cabo Verde is relying on a clear strategy, turning tourism into a driver of sustainable growth. The sector contributes nearly 25% of the country's GDP and generates hundreds of millions of euros in annual revenue. Modernized ports, international airports, European investments, and the development of renewable energy are all parts of the plan. The country aims to become a tourism and logistics platform linking Africa, Europe, and the Americas. And the economic results are already visible. After the COVID-19 crisis, Cabo Verde's economy rebounded with growth exceeding 7% in 2024, driven mainly by the recovery of tourism and services.
Nous avons d'autres domaines de développement qui sont très importants, comme les connexions ou le tourisme. Nous parlons notamment des transports.
Cabo Verde's tourism appeal is not based solely on the beauty of its beaches or the unique architecture of its infrastructure. The archipelago is also leveraging its rich cultural heritage to attract visitors. In Mindelo, on the island of São Vicente, the famous carnival draws thousands of people into the streets every year. The event is often compared to the Rio Carnival for its giant floats, colorful parades, and festive atmosphere. Another major attraction is the Bahia das Gatas Festival. For more than 40 years, this music festival has brought together local and international artists on an open-air beach stage celebrating Cabo Verdean music. The Gamboa Festival, held on Gamboa Beach on Santiago Island in the heart of the capital city Praia, also gathers numerous local and international artists each year.
Nous avons besoin de davantage d'investissements. Les groupes touristiques sont invités à investir au Cap-Vert afin que nous puissions accroître notre capacité d'accueil.
Nossa democracia, de referência, de boa governança, de baixos níveis de corrupção, porque
Today, Cabo Verde is seeking to transform its geographic isolation into regional economic strength. Between tourism growth, political stability, and climate change, the country now welcomes hundreds of thousands of visitors every year and aims to become one of Africa's leading Atlantic tourism platforms. The archipelago now hopes to establish itself as the premium face of tourism within ECOWAS.
Intra-African cooperation remains essential to the continent's future prosperity. Thank you for joining us on ECOWAS Report, the first 360-degree magazine, TV, digital and print dedicated to promoting integration and development for the nearly 400 million people of the ECOWAS region. Watch ECOWAS Report again on Africa 24, Africa 24 English, the My Africa 24 app, and across all our social media platforms. See you soon for another edition of ECOWAS Report.